Hello and welcome to the Home Cheffies Bootcamp workshops or talks. This is the first one of them. I'm Kalyan Karmakar, and you've got Nidhi Agarwal, as her T-shirt says. She's from Booker Workshop. So we are together bringing Home Cheffies to you. And Home Cheffies is a program to sort of award home chefs for the brands which they're building in India and also global Indians. So Indians who are working and as home chefs abroad or PIOs, as they say, or this thing. And the entire idea of doing this program was to sensitize home chefs to the need of building a brand and to sort of help them understand that. And we've got a fabulous panel of jury. I don't think we could have asked better, who are people who are from the world of business and marketing and who've built great brands themselves and they love food in some form or the other. So we're going to learn from them and they're going to evaluate your brands. But we're also doing these talks to sort of get their perspective. And then at the end of the talk, Nidhi is also going to ask some very pointed questions with specific tips, because I can sometimes get a bit cerebral, Bengali that I have. Well, we've got Anil Vishwanathan here, and he's a marketing director with Mondelez. He's been with the company since 2000. So that's, we talk about building enduring brands. Well, that's, as enduring a journey as it can get. So absolute pleasure to have you on board. And Anil's worked in India and abroad, building different brands, seeing different trends. And we are going to sort of use and tap onto his experience over the next half an hour or so and get it on. So thanks
Thanks for,
so much.
thanks for having me,
Thank,
Kalyan. Nice to meet you, Nidhi.
Thanks. Absolute pleasure. And we've all grown up, with this thing of Cadbury chocolate, Cadbury DN, Dairy Milk, and as it's grown, the different brands, the different extensions which it took, biscuits, cereals, what not. And I must remember, I'll just tell you what one creative when I was in college. And no, it's not the Cadbury girl, when the 4 or 6 was it. But I was in B school then, and I think there was a brand called not Perk. I think it was Picnic. So
Mhm.
with there were nuts and raisins and all that. And I think White Light did the
Yes.
production. Nomita and Shubir, whom I got to know later myself. So I'm in B school, right? So I'm hungry. I'm a hungry teenager, and we are going to College Street in Calcutta. And then I remember the ad, which was like this beautiful four shots of nuts and caramel and peanuts and cashews and raisins. And I just went to the panwala and bought one. And since then, like, it was my shit shot. Okay, of course, Cadbury has many more creative, Mondelez has many more work, but Anil, so we are doing this home cheffies thing, and one of the questions which home chefs might have, and it's a very basic question, and maybe people feel scared to ask it even in boardrooms, but I'm sure a lot of people have that question. What is a brand? And maybe you can, if you want, take an example from any of the brands you worked on to say, but what is a brand? Not Kotler speak, but Anil speak, which is understandable.
Yeah, I think it's quite simple. It is about uh, an experience that the consumer receives, right? In return for what the consumer pays, and it is an experience. It goes beyond just the tangible and includes the intangible, and it's a little bit more holistic. There's an element of emotion in it. There's an element of functional in it, but it's the holistic experience that a consumer receives, right? And in many ways, you want to ensure that that experience is unique and is different from other experiences that the consumer may have access to or may have tried in the past, right? And really, the whole fun of branding and hence marketing is how do you ensure that that experience is so unique that the consumer is willing to pay for it and pay more and more for it, and that's really the fun of branding and marketing. But as simple as an experience that you provide a consumer.
So Anil, with 20 years with Mondelez, I'm sure there are some brands which are more close to your heart, or some of the launches, or maybe the classic brand. So why don't you give us an example of one of them, because these are names which you're all familiar with,
Yep.
and then deconstruct that to us. Like, for example, if dairy milk is a brand, what is it? Or I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, obviously you can speak using dairy milk as a simple reference, because I think many people who are going to listen to this are possibly well aware of Cadbury dairy milk.
Everyone is.
And I think, and it's a very interesting experience, right? So firstly, of course, it is what we would call the defining taste of chocolate in the country. It's the taste of chocolate that people have grown up into, right? And for starters, that's what it is. It is a chocolate. But then over a period of time, as you talk to people, as people talk about their experience of what does dairy milk stand for, right? You start then understanding the elements of the experience that goes beyond just the fact that they put the chocolate into the mouth. It's really nice tasting. It's about what it makes them feel. It's about what it does to the situation that they are in. It's the kind of memories it evokes. And it's about the kind of lift that it provides at the end of eating it, so that you know that after consuming a Cadbury dairy milk, you're different from what you were before consuming it. And you're able to articulate that both emotionally and physically, what's happened to you after eating that brand. So, I mean, that's what kind of broadly, what I'm trying to say. But let me tell you a little bit a better story.
Yes.
So, if you ask a consumer, what is a chocolate, right? And in India, it's very interesting. People use Cadbury and chocolate interchangeably. So, it happens when brands become large and represent a category. So,
like
Cadbury is short code for chocolate, a Maggi is short code for noodles, a Kurkure is short code for a snack. So when you ask a person, what is a chocolate? He says it's brown in color and it's sweet. Not too many people in the country still know the notion of cocoa and the fact that it is cocoa and milk and fat that comes together. Instinctively, they say it's chocolate and sweet. And there's something that we've known for years, right? But sometime in around 2002, 2003, after a period of about 6-7 years when chocolate was not growing, people have said, how do you get people to eat more chocolate? Either you have to get people to eat more chocolate or get more people to eat chocolate. But still, today it's an expensive snack and not everybody can afford it. There's a lot of headroom. A lot of people don't eat chocolate. So chocolate finally is alien to our culture, right? It didn't exist 2 generations before. It came in with English, right? So we're still trying to teach people. So there's no need. And first of all, it's not a need, it's a want. Yeah. If I don't eat chocolate today, I won't die. Right? But you want to create that want, you want to create that desire, right? So it's an alien taste you want to create a desire for, right? And obviously it's been a slow process. And through the mid-90s and early 2000s, we're trying to see, how do I get people to eat more chocolate? Those who know chocolate, they know it. Then those who know about it and don't eat it, they don't eat it. And then when we were talking about the insight, and I said, so it's chocolate and it's sweet. And then something clicked in a group meeting, in a group forum at that point of time among the leaders there. They said, sweet is nothing but meetha, right? So why isn't chocolate a meetha? Right. And if you were to just reframe it to say it's not so much about getting people to eat more chocolate, but getting people to eat chocolate as a meetha, then suddenly you see that there's a whole space of meetha that people are eating. And meetha is, again, there's a physical of it which is sweet, and there's a feeling of it which is sweetness.
Yes.
Which it stands for, right? And if you're able to leverage that and leverage all the myriad stories around sweets and start placing dairy milk in it, where can that take, and what journey can that take? And that's been our journey on Kuch Meetha Ho Jaye, which we started from 2004, and it kind of transformed the category post that, because then people started realizing, this is a meetha. So yes. I can use it in a festival, I can give it in a birthday, I can use it for, even today, I mean, you hear stories of Ganpati and chocolate modaks and all of that we keep hearing, right? So you see how the category is becoming more and more getting ingrained into our culture, right? Like in Calcutta, we do a very nice, it's been running for many years, where we're really trying to position chocolate as a mishti.
I know.
Right? And all those attempts to say, get chocolate closer into the consumer's life. And once you do that, then again, you start building onto the meanings on the brand, which then goes beyond just the taste of chocolate. Now, today it represents sweetness. and all the feelings that are linked to sweetness. Shared good feelings, the feeling of generosity, the feeling of goodness, the feeling of warmth, the feeling of happiness, and hence, any time in the day, it's now very easy for you to create that feeling that I should eat a Cadbury.
That's so beautifully captured, and I remember that Kuch Meeta Ho Jaye. I think Miss Amitabh Bachchan was the thing, and I also remember that Calcutta Mishi thing, because I used to be at IMRB then doing automotive, but there were my colleagues doing research on Cadbury, and because when I'd grown up in Calcutta, the, there was this concept of a chocolate sandesh, which was basically a sandesh which was slightly half white and half brown in color. So that was as much chocolate as the brown breads are, whole wheat, but they're with caramel and all. So when I read about that, and then I realized that this integration to actually infuse in cocoa and since then I think some fabulous work has also happened. And what I also found exciting, if you remember that a lot of our home chefs in our workshops have said that, okay, right now people are ordering because there are no restaurants or they don't have cooks, but what will happen later? What he told me, Anil, is that once you create a need which is universal and goes beyond specific instances, then the relationship also becomes more enduring. Because then I'm going to think of chocolate as meetha, and like you said, meetha is celebration. Meetha is when you're feeling low and you want something, or you're missing someone. Like today, it's our friend's birthday, so we are sending over some chocolate cakes to her, or one could have sent chocolates to her and whatever. So that emotion I find is very interesting.
I also think that adding Amitabh Bachchan in the whole mix got a lot of trust and a lot of Indianness to the whole thing, because then immediately you saw Amitabh Bachchan and you could relate to the brand, right? And at that time, I mean, he was the one who was booming as an actor. Plus, he was relatable to every age group. So I think, again, coming back to our home chefs, what they're doing with their packaging and what they're doing with the kind of trust and the value that they're adding to their brand along with the food they're making is pretty remarkable.
That's a good point, Nidhi. In fact, with that, I'm going to bring that as a question to you, Anil, that trust. So, like, again, going back to my MRB days and the brand tracks, when it was Miller Brown, I think when we do that brand dynamics thing, it was always trust, which would be the biggest factor for creating what is called the champion brand, the leader, which I'm sure CDM was in its category. In mine, it was things like, ICICI Bank or Maruti and all that. Now, home chefs will not have access to Mr. Bachchan always. So, but how, what are the trends which you're seeing in the food market? That what are consumers wanting today? And how can home chefs leverage that to create a story of trust? Any point of view on that?
So two separate things actually, and maybe let me talk trust first and then talk about trends. I
Yes.
think obviously trust needs is something that is built over time.
Hmm.
It's not something that you can create overnight.
Hmm.
And it is obviously an outcome of a degree of reliability
Hmm.
that you build over a period of time, the level of consistency and dependability that you create so that over a period of time you you represent a set of attributes, a set of values that are consistent, so that when I go to you, I know that I can trust you. So it's that kind of mutuality of relationship that comes over a period of time based on a element of dependability and consistency. So I think that's the first part. So hence, how do we emphasize on consistency
Consistency.
and
Yes.
how important is consistency? And hence, in many ways, one of the things that we try and do, and one of the things that we test for
Hmm.
early on when you're building brands, this help, and you know this well as a researcher, Kalyan, that anybody would try, but repeat is always a very
Yeah.
interesting measure of long-term growth arising out of consistency, leading up to trust. So there's, I think, the element of uh, uh, repeat and the element of consistency, and hence when we start small also, what gives us confidence that something that starts small becomes big is really what you look for is repeat. So rather than trying to spread ourselves too thin too fast and get very excited about big numbers, what we look for is actually a consistent set of people repeating you on it. And how do you create that relationship? Then you know that you are creating a notion of consistency that could in the future translate into trust. That's point number one.
And also recommendation. So repeat also leads to recommendation.
Of course. And that's where the smaller group of people is enough, because then that creates advocates, right? That creates advocacy.
Yes,
then of course that leads to recommendations. And I think the other notion is
Anil, sorry, I just want to make this point before we move into food trends, because it's a very relevant point, especially for home chefs, is that if a company which is like Mondelez and with brands which you have, if a company as so large as you are focusing first on the the quality of loyalty which your brand building rather than numbers, I think is very relevant for home chefs, because see, home chefs operate very differently, say from a restaurant or a hotel or even a cloud kitchen. So sometimes, and they're operating in their own silos. So it gets sometimes a bit worrisome that, okay, maybe I'm not getting those sort of numbers. But I think what you said right now, that consistency and leading to repeat purchase, I think that's great. Sorry, you were going on to trends.
Yeah, and I was just going to say not trends. In the second aspect.
Yeah, so the second point you were saying, Anil?
And the second point around trust, as we said, it's kind of linked to brand building. That every time you provide that consistent experience, if you're able to add a layer of storytelling on it, where you're then able to build on that experience so that the consumer buys into a story behind the product or behind that, so that elevates the experience. And consumer is consuming that, going through that experience, is able to relate to the story. And I think in today's day and age, that is emerging as a very nice theme for home chefs, digital brands, what we all call insurgent brands, and the pressure that's coming on to large brands like the ones that we manage is really, are you able to create that story, that authenticity of that experience, which then people are buying into. And once they buy into it, they're buying because it is creating, in effect, trust, because that's a story that they want to believe in. Yeah. So I think that's the other element of trust, which is around storytelling.
Anil, I mean, Nidhi and I are big advocates of storytelling, and that's what even in the workshops we try to do. Would you like to give us some example from your portfolio, or even otherwise, maybe someone you've seen and admired from the ecosystem, of a great example of brand storytelling? Because then it'll become a bit understandable.
Many, but let me tell you one within the company and one outside. One within the company is Bonvita, right? Yes. And the storytelling that we try to do, of course, Bonvita has such a big legacy over the years, but more recently, over the last 10 years, the story that we are trying to build around not just the fact that Bonvita reinforces the milk and makes it into a nice experience, which is milk and the goodness of Bonvita together, but converting that into a ritual for the mother and child, and for the mother to feel that that ritual is an important element in the preparation of the child's success. Right? And the child to believe that this ritual is an important step towards success. That laddering up to this whole space of preparation, or tayari jeet ki, as we call it in Bonvita. Yes. And then and this notion that nothing comes easy, and that this ritual and preparation is so important and crucial, that at the moment when the test comes, what helps you succeed is the preparation that's gone on over a period of time. That is the kind of meaning that you're laddering it, right? So that the person believes that it's not so much about just the fact that it's milk which is reinforced with Bonvita, but it's an element which then becomes part of life, because it's an attitude that you want to build and you want to relate to.
Go ahead.
I think, Kalyan, what you've also covered in a lot, I think what home chefs bring to the table is not only storytelling but also resonance. Now, I think marketing in general has gone one step from storytelling to now resonating and wanting to resonate with a brand. Now people don't only look at the story and appreciate it, but if the brand and the story resonates with them, they will become loyal brand customers.
Connects. Yes.
And
That's a good point that you're saying, that the
Yeah.
story needs to
That I
emerge
should be able to connect with the
and
resonate,
should
connect.
emerge from a truth in the brand. Everybody can tell nice stories, right?
right,
But if you want to get into stories, the consumers today can also filter out the point you're making, Nidhi, around what is an authentic story,
right,
resonates with me, and what is the story that looks good but it's got nothing to do with the brand, or doesn't change my relationship with the brand. So I think it needs to emerge from a core. And it also links to another point that we've been talking about over the last few years. Different companies use different names. So I like the name because it kind of blends with it. So you call it storytelling and story doing.
I love it.
And to say that one is what I tell,
Right,
but in order for me to resonate, I also need to do something
Yes.
about it. So if I stand
Yes.
for generosity, I need to do something about it, which says that why am I saying generosity is important? What am I doing about it? Right?
exactly.
So today, for years, if Dove has been talking about real beauty, if they're now talking about stereotypes, now they're trying to do something about it. But again, you have to do something about it, right? And sometimes doing starts by inspiring, because every change starts with awareness, then leading up to change. But the consumer will see through if you're just telling a story as against you actually doing something about it. Lifebuoy is such a great example, right? How it's transformed itself over the years. And today it stands for, creating a movement of protection and safety
I think today's
led by
consumers
kids.
are actually they think about the things that they're buying. They think about the kind of brands that they're buying, because again, resonance has become such a big part of consumer behavior
Right.
today. Like
Right.
today, if I support breaking stereotypes, and if that is what Dove is giving me, I will go and buy Dove only
Yeah.
because of their messaging.
Yeah.
I will go and buy a reusable bottle, and not a plastic bottle, just because it resonates with the person I am. So I think people are becoming very aware of their individuality, and only the brands that resonate with their thought processes, their individuality, they will go and they will buy and they will become loyal customers. And
And we've seen this, Nidhi and Anil, including in many of the home chefs which we've highlighted in our case studies, that the story of behind their food, like in many cases, it's maybe a family member who inspired them, and then it's a certain philosophy which they're buying into, and then there's a certain thing which they're trying to represent to the so like today, for example, when we are recording this, it's happens to be Eid, and you will see many pictures of sheer kurma and biryani on Instagram. But what interests one is that the story behind the biryani, the story behind the shuri korma, because that biryani could have come from a top-notch hotel, from a place like Wahid's in Lucknow, or like in our case, our cook Banu came and made some. So each biryani has its own story, and so you're talking a couple of examples you wanted to give. Was it the Dove and Lifebuoy ones you
Yes,
referred to, or
yes.
is there
And
other
that and
story?
Bonvita, that's it. Those are the stories I wanted to say.
And now, the other part of my question, which is about trends which are emerging in food, and also a very important point you made before we started talking, is that it's not just about food, because no category ever exists in isolation. So it's about what overall trends are, what societal trends are, what cultural trends are, and you're also talking about this sort of return to family bonding. So you want to talk a bit about that? That what is it? Where are we moving towards? What's your experience in
I
that?
think, so, multiple trends in that sense, but from a food standpoint and from a snacking standpoint, kind of categories that we manage, Kalyan. One, of course, is the fact that uh, home is becoming more fun, and hence, if going out was fun earlier, now the onus is on us now to make home more interesting. Those of us who are the Gen Y, Gen Xers, who knew home was fun, and there was really not too many options going out if you're in a middle class family, and going out was once a month or once in 2 months. Home was so much fun, and there was so much effort being made to make a Sunday morning lunch so much more fun, or a Friday evening a little bit more fun. I think that notion has come in post COVID. uh, Rituals are re-emerging. moments of connection as re-emerging. In general, anxiety and stress levels are higher, so the desire to take a break and reconnect is becoming more important. The kitchen is becoming more important in the house. More people are going in with a greater degree of confidence and coming out with smiles. They're seeing that as a great opportunity to bond with their children. I think definitely with the advent of food delivery and all the multiple apps, it's easy to procure material, procure stuff. So in the past, if it was difficult for you to do something which is Lebanese, or you want to try something which is authentic Chinese, you would never get those ingredients. Today, all of them are available on a click. So you want to do something which is really a nice Thai green curry, which is authentic, you can get all of those ingredients. And then you realize, hey, it's not so difficult. It's probably 25 minutes. All it requires is an openness and experimental approach, and the reward that it's generating for the creator. Typically, we talk about any activity and this point around consistency and repeat. The reward has to be concomitant and instantaneous, right? Now,
Yes.
this element of being home and cooking has an instant reward, that is gratification at home and your ability to share and gain endorsement amongst those who matter to you, right? That ability for instant rewards is also allowing this to blossom aggressively. So I think that's this broad trend around home. And the other interesting thing around local, right? We're definitely seeing a big and you're hearing so many people talk about it in different ways, right? OTT talking about regional languages. You talk about Google, Facebook talking about language searches. We are seeing, this whole emergence globally also. The famous Korean director who received the Oscar award saying, "Look beyond the half inch," right? And how subtitling is now exploding content across the world. You see this trend around relatable local. So there's a degree of authenticity that local experience stands for, right? But you're able to engage with it and relate to it because it's all about that experience, right? Okay. Now, imagine India. Imagine the cultural richness we've got. Imagine the diversity that we've got, right? Just the sheer diversity and what it can create and what it can provoke. The experimentation that it can provoke. The textures and the interesting mixes that it can provoke, the notion of fusion that it can create, the modernity of, and we've always believed in India because we are a culture that has grown up on stories, right? If you're able to retell a classic, nothing sells like that. Nothing sells like retelling of a classic. Right? We had this whole campaign around Shubharab.
Yes.
This is a very old-fashioned line. मेरी माँ हमेशा कहती थी कोई भी शुभ काम करने के पहले कुछ मीठा खा लेना चाहिए अच्छा
Yes.
But it became so topical and so pop culture because you're bringing an age-old custom of a mother saying eat something sweet before you go because then it'll be good. But you give it a modern spin and people go ballistic about it. Right? So I think this ability to retell classics and just mine into the cultural diversity of the country is just fascinating. So especially in the context of food, it'll explode. I mean, you're already seeing it explode, but just the opportunities are mind-boggling.
I think it's just about putting content into context, and that's just.
So we started this whole notion called Madbury, create your own Cadbury. Typically, we used to launch new flavors every year. So from 2 years back, we started saying, "You tell us what you want." And
like the pan flavor I came across.
Like the pan flavor, right? So last year we launched Panjir and mint. This year we're launching, and we're getting 1 million entries.
Wow.
We're just giving 23 ingredients, 3-4 chocolate masses, and 2-3 types of nuts, and just go wild. Bhujia in Cadbury, and Gulkand in Cadbury, and coconut.
Professor Madbury.
Anything you can make, right? And just see the excitement and just the excitement on saying, and we took this, we said it's a very nice digital concept. A couple of years back, pre-COVID, we started doing stalls, right? We did a stall in Comic Con, we did a stall in a massive Reliance shareholder meet. Just the notion that there's a bunch of ingredients in this chocolate. We said, make your own and publish it and put it on Facebook. People go mad. They didn't realize it's just so much fun. I'm making my own Cadbury. And you can, dilute the quantity, mix whatever you want. You can go mad.
And it's all sorts of people because the Reliance shareholders are normally not the sort of people who would be mixing chocolates. So Hopefully, it was a year where the share prices went up, which always happens with Reliance. But before I hand you over to Nidhi, a couple of points which struck me when you said there. So first of all, the Shubharam. So when I've grown up in a Bengali family, and my mom's been very this thing and not sweets will be disciplined and all that. But then I came in and stayed with a Punjabi family. In fact, my landlady just passed on a couple of years back, unfortunately. But I think that she was really like a mother figure for me. So I remember that, and I was the first time I was living alone. Unlike you, I've not lived in a hostel, Anil. And Nidhi's also been alone sometimes studying and all that. I've been a homeboy. So I remember once when I was taking my first flight early in the morning to go and do focus group. So the auntie came to me with a jar of sugar and she said that, have some sugar at least. I just started flying then. So I said, nahi, mujhe airport mein jaake plane mein khana hai. The plane food which you dissed today, that time was like Michelin starred stuff. So she said, nahi, thoda muh meetha karke jana hai. So that's one. The other point I wanted to say was both the two trends which you spoke about, which is creating new experiences, and you're talking Thai and Lebanese. And then your second point of local. So let me, and this is where home chefs come in, that, and that's why we have so many categories, because while we have food and dessert, but we also have condiment, health food, and all that as categories. So I am not someone who cooks by recipes. You can open otherwise recipe books and make by it. I like to freestyle. But I've been receiving a lot of these spice mixes from home chefs. And then I've been cooking with these, and completely different flavors coming into our house. Let me give you a few, and it's completely changed. So there's Hilda, who lives down the road. So her daughter gave me the East Indian masala, which Hilda makes for the last 40 years. I made a prawn lonvas, and all of these are, they're not sponsors, but they're as easy as making Maggi. So I made prawn lonvas with the East Indian masala, mind blowing. Then she gave the East Indian garam masala, with which I made the mutton stew, mind blowing. Yesterday, by mistake, I soaked chana dal instead of tur dal. I didn't want to make the Bengali chola dal because we had it 4 days back. Suddenly, I remembered I had Havana spices, Sindhi dal pakwan thing, which is with chana dal. I made it fabulous. Then there's so many. Then I'm married to a Parsi, like you worked with her sometimes, and we cook a lot of Bengali food, but we never really made Parsi food at home because it always seems very complex and not as she cooked. Then Tanaz Godiwala, which is famous caterer, because of lockdown, she started creating condiments, and one of the things was a dhansakno masala. So it's a very simple dhansak paste. And that helped me break my mental barrier. And I made the dhansak for the first time in, you've been working with Cadbury's and Mondelez for 20 years. We'll be having our 20th wedding anniversary in a few months. Yeah. So for the first time in like 19 plus maybe 7-8 months, I made a dhansak, and it was so fabulous that I made it many more times after that. And I just closed my eyes and make it. And once we sent it to my mom-in-law, and she said, it's the best dhansak which I've had from your house. So you're right that, like if you're enabling the kitchen and the food space, and when we are all in this sort of stressed environment, and then bring in the kushi, or the meetha. Like meetha is not necessarily just sweet. Meetha is an emotion. Like it's like that peaceful, easy feeling, like the Eagle song is. Yeah, they're a band maybe. You might not have heard of them, but Hotel California and all that.
Oh, come on.
So it's just this thing, and the local connect. I've made Thai curries, I've made Lebanese, this thing, hummus and all that. But when I am nailing a Sindhi dish, when I'm nailing a Parsi dish, when I'm nailing an East Indian dish, it's just this thing. Okay, now listen, if you look at the top of the box, we're talking thinking and doing. So I'm Bengali, I'm the thinker, and Nidhi's the Punjabi and the doer. And, so Nidhi told me that, look, you're going to ask all these cerebral questions, but at the end of it, we should get some tips for home chefs. So since we got Anil, so she's going to ask you 3 or 4 questions, and think of it as a Karan Johar rapid fire with no box, no basket. But she's going to ask you some specific questions and some specific Q&A. With that, over to you, Nidhi.
So I am from the learning space as well, the learner, doer, and this and that. So I'm going to ask you specifically learning questions. These are learning specific questions for home chefs. So I'm going to just name this section, how would Anil do it? And these are going to be questions where I would want you to imagine yourself maybe starting a completely new home chef business, right? From scratch, from the very grassroots level. So, my first question to you is, if you were to start your own home chef brand, how would you start the whole process of branding here?
I think it doesn't matter what I do. Any problem we've learned a very simple way to solve that problem, and we break it up into two simple steps. Call it where to play and how to win. So the first focus is where to play. Where do I play? So if I'm going to start as a home chef, all I need to understand the space and figure out there are myriad opportunities. So you need to structure the space in a way so that you understand what the space is, and then pick up something that you're really passionate about. Right? So if I'm passionate about vegetables and mainstream food, mainstream Indian food, it'll take me in a certain direction. If I'm good in meats and non-veg, it'll take me in a certain direction. If I'm a dessert maker, it's going to take me in a certain direction. So where to play? So frame the market and be clear about where to play. Once you're clear about your where to play, that means you know who your core consumer is. Know your consumer. Again, myriad things you can do. It's very easy. The starting point, if the starting point becomes what should I do, we always get confused. We typically get this question in media interactions as a marketer. What should brands do? What should brands do? And I keep responding. It's not about what should brands do. What does the consumer want?
Correct.
So where to play? Get your segment clear. Know what your consumer wants. That's what I would do first. That's my homework. And then, of course, bring your complete soul into how to win. So understand what is in it that you will provide that makes you distinctive, that you can do consistently, that you can wake up in the morning and do, and not crib or not feel sad about. You know that you can consistently deliver over a period of time. You can scale up if you want to, if the desire, if the so need comes. And those are the areas around how to win. So how can I win credibly better than others? What will make me distinctive? What will make me differentiated? That will be my simple mantra for success. There's no magic formula. Where to play, how to win.
So we've been talking a lot about storytelling and resonance throughout this entire space and Cadbury, and you've done a fabulous job in creating that story. Now, if you, as the home chef, were to create a story around your brand, what would be the key elements in, really spacing the story out, telling the story, and what would you do there?
I think once I know my clear how to win, and my how to win, I should be able to articulate it in a way that can inspire everything that should come out of it. The set of ingredients that I use, the kind of cuisine that I make, the kind of pricing that I go for. It should also become very clear what I can't do or what I won't do. Right? So I will not be the Shetty Snacks who will also give me uttapam and give me vada pav and give me
pizza
or pizza. Right? So I mean, obviously, he's catering. He's very clear about his where to play. Right? He's there. Somebody who's hungry and wants a good experience out of home. He's going to give you whatever he wants. Right? He doesn't want you to go anywhere else. So that's Shetty for you. Again, very clear where to play. So I think the how to win, once it's clear, it should influence every single thing that you do, that your brand represents, so that the experience is holistic.
Right.
So then it covers every element, right? So it covers the name that I choose. So it has both the what I would call the functional basic attributes, and also then talk about the benefits and what kind of benefits they provide, right? And if I have the confidence, if I have my where to play clear, then I know that taste is important, right? Then I don't get swayed by the 1,000 articles of how people are going crazy about health and how they're doing 100 push-ups every day, because I know that it matters, right? So once I know clearly, then then it allows me to make those choices very clearly across the various elements.
Correct. Now, once you're done with the storytelling aspect of it, you've got the right elements in place as to whatever you'd like to put into your story and communicate that. Especially with the right product, that like the one that you mentioned. How would you start approaching the packaging space here? How would you like to communicate that story through the packaging? Because I personally believe, and I've also learned this from Kalyan's workshops, is that when you look at a restaurant, you can go there, you can physically sit there, you can experience the surroundings, you can experience how the person's speaking to you. So it's that story a lot about your brand, your story. Whereas when you talk to a home chef, it's only their Instagram, Facebook, or whatever page they've built, and the packaging that comes to your house that really builds the experience. So you as a home chef, how would you start building the experience with the packaging? Or a couple of tips?
Yeah. I think the moment we start thinking about the fact that it's the experience and it's not just what I make, but it's the entire experience that defines me, then really it's about deconstructing all the elements of that experience and putting time and working on it step by step to say all of it needs to come together.
Right.
And then it's really about working on it step by step. And hence, and we spoke about earlier in the chat about this whole need for consistency and everything coming together in a holistic way. So I think this notion of integration that we believe in, so that every facet that you experience me should reflect the same meaning, should reflect the same, should feel the same way, should communicate the same thing. So that's what I would call packaging. I mean, otherwise packaging can be misconstrued as the cosmetics.
Correct.
But if you were to think about how I package my experience, so that every single touch point,
Correct.
right, from the time consumer sees my video to the time the consumer receives my product, and the way he receives it, when he opens it, how it should look and how it should feel, all of it comes together as packaging for me. It's kind of all the moments of truth. Yes, the first, second, and third moment of truth, as we say, every touch point, absolutely.
Right. Beautiful. So if you were to again develop these top 5 skills as a home chef, what would those top 5 skills be?
I think the first and most important skill would be, counterintuitive to what you might think, but I would really pick up analytics so that I can read data, so that they can understand my consumers better on a constant basis. So I have the great opportunity today to get more and more information about them.
Right.
A, who they are, B, what they like about me. So I think one is analytics, so that I can clearly analyze, make clear choices around defining my way to play, as I keep saying, right? I think that's a lot of it is based on data. It's not feel based. It's not about I think these kind of people like me or like my food. I will know very clearly who likes my brand, why they like my brand across the funnel, right? The whole funnel operating. So who's coming to my site, who's listening to my videos, who's buying into my products, who's repeating, who's not, who's saying good things, who's saying bad things. So that requires a lot of analysis. That comes from a desire for problem solving, sitting with data, looking at it, analyzing it. So analytical skills, complemented by, of course, creativity and the desire to go mad, the willingness to fail, the willingness to experiment, know that sometimes you might fail, but really through which you create something which is uniquely yours. This requires an element of creativity. I think these two are the kind of the most important things. And of course, you would aspire for basic level of skill sets, I'm sure. So I'm sure all of our home chefs are extremely accomplished in what they're doing. And just kind of, I would definitely do enough research to know how my area is, my particular focus space is evolving, and ensure that there's an element of expertise there that I would pick up. I think there's this notion even in marketing or anywhere else to say that whatever needs to be learned has already been written. So it's all about going back into history and learning. So I think there's an element of learning and the humility to say that what you're doing is not something that hasn't been done before. So it's just about your version of it. Once you know everything about it, you're able to present it in a much more of an authentic way, in your way.
Beautiful.
These are about 2 or 3 things. I wouldn't drain to 5. I think these 3 are kind of.
My final question to you for the evening would be, you've been in the space, you've been marketing, working, branding, building brands up for a very long time now. So what would be your success mantra for people to know about how to really build a successful brand here?
The most important successful mantra is having a good ecosystem. Nothing that we have created has been created by me alone or by my team alone. At least in Cadbury, we have created in Mondelez, we've created an ecosystem where we're very proud of the ecosystem that we've created. We often, people from outside come and say, we don't know who's the client and who's the agency, because we are in it together. We all own the brand together. So I think it's an ecosystem of passionate people who take ownership in what what they do, and people don't compartmentalize saying, I do this, you do that, I manage creative, you manage business, I manage media, I manage digital, I manage product development. Everybody can do everything. And there's an element of ownership. And of course, this ecosystem is also a thriving, successful ecosystem. You know that you really are working with the best in the industry that way. And of course, it comes over time, and there's a legacy. And hence, I keep telling myself every day that there's a legacy I've received. And the most important thing I should do is not screw it up.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I need to rush. People waiting.
Okay, no, we are done. It's absolutely fabulous.
Yes,
And I think Nidhi has sort of told you to tell me that everyone needs to do everything, so I can't just think. But thank you so much, Anil. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Anil Vishwanathan, part of a jury for Home Cheffies, and absolute golden words. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. All the best. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. So that is Anil Vishwanathan. He's one of our judges in Home Cheffies, and we'll get you many more such interesting chats. Lots to learn. And guys, if you're a home chef, please enter the Home Cheffies Awards. There's no entry fee. There are cash prizes, I'm told, by nice people who are sort of supporting us and brands and so on. You'll see them. And I go to the Book a Workshop site, and you'll see the form as to how to enter. There are 14 categories for people in India and a couple of categories for Indians sort of doing glorious work outside. So just go in there and nominate yourself. And if you're not a home chef, but you know home chefs, just tag your favorite home chefs and tell them, what are you doing? And the reason why we're doing this is so that they get a chance, you get a chance to get your brand evaluated by top experts, and also start thinking in terms of brands. So Nidhi, anything you want to add to that before I sign off?
So excited for you all to come and apply, because it's a great opportunity. Your brand gets showcased, to all of these amazing people from the industry who are top notch, who are people in the top of the crux from both business and advertising and branding spaces. So please don't miss out on the opportunity, because firstly, 5 things to remember. 1, it's free of cost. At no given point of time, there'll be a dime charged to you. Second is you get the opportunity to get judged by these amazing people. Third is if you win, you get cash prizes, you get mentorship, you get an amazing hamper that we're building for you all. And fourth thing that you need to remember is you get the brand recognition that you deserve. And fifth thing is it's a very quick form, which does not involve you sending us food, which makes it easy for you. I mean, we obviously regret not getting all the food and eating it. I bet Kalyan, agrees with me here. But it's a really quick form that is available on bookaworkshop.in. So log in and quickly sign up. I mean, we're waiting to see what you're up to and what your brand story holds for us.
Not to take the last word, but I also have 3 things of mine to add. So please like the video, please subscribe to the channel, and please share it. Okay, bye.